This is Web Development Complete course. This is Module 1 Python, and in this tutorial we are going to learn syntax in Python, Python variables, and how to use comments in Python. Please do subscribe if you are new to this channel. Let's get started without further delay. Let's open Ideally so that we can write our first code. Here we are starting with print function and we are printing hello world, and here we are using a print function in order to print. Here print is a function which is an inbuilt function in Python. So a function is a block of code which only runs when it is called. It will do a specific task for us whenever we are calling it. When we wanted to call a function, we use this parenthesis. Inside that we are passing a parameter. Here our parameter is hello world and it is represented in string format. We will be learning string in detail in the further videos. So right now when we are using a string, we use a single quote or double quote to specify that. So whenever we wanted to print anything in Python, we can use this print function, and inside that we can pass any parameter that we wanted to print out. Now let's learn about Python indentation. Here in Python, indentation is very much important, and when we are talking about indentation, indentation is actually a space that we are using before starting the code. So right now we are writing a if block here. As of now we didn't start if block yet, and you are not familiar with if block, I know, but this is just to represent how an indentation is important in Python. Here I have two if block statement and each code is called a block of code. So in the first example, after colon, the second line I started with a space. So it would be any number of space, but the second example I didn't start with a space, or there is no indentation in the second example. Here the indentation or the spacing is very much important in Python, and then only the block of code will be executed correctly. Here you can use any number of spaces. Usually we are following 4 spaces or a single tab. So when you start writing lines of codes, always keep same number of spaces throughout a single block. Be clear with the indentation part, otherwise it won't work and it's matter in Python. Now let's talk about the comments. So when you wanted to write some comments in between your codes, so these comments are represented by using a hash symbol, and here when you wanted to explain your Python code, you are using a comment. You can use a comment either above your code or you can use the comment in the same line of your code. So after hash symbol, the entire comment will be excluded while it is executing. Now let's talk about variables. It's an important part in Python and everywhere we use this variable. So variables are containers for storing data values. What does it mean? Because here let's consider x equal to 5. It means x is a container. Consider x is a box, and in that box we are keeping a value called 5. And the next time we are storing 4 in the x container, and third time in the x container we are storing a string value called s. The fourth time we are storing another string value called John. Here the values are changing but the containers are same. So this container is called a variable. So in variable we can store any data type, any values, it doesn't matter. So variable is a storage where we can keep our values. Now let's explain this in detail. Here consider today's your expenses like this. You are spending 4,200 for food, 20,000 for education and 3,500 for health. And tomorrow it may change. But here you have to consider the food which is a variable and which will act as a variable, there you can store that value. In the same way, the health, and the education which act as a variable, and tomorrow it may change. See here, for the next month the value has changed. Here food, education and health which act as a container and which hold those values. There are some important rules you need to follow while you are using a variable. The first one is that a variable name must start with a letter or an underscore character. You can start with ABC or orange like that. A variable name cannot start with a number. You cannot start with a number like 2A or 35B. It cannot be like that. A variable name can only contain alphanumeric characters and underscores. You can use A to Z any alphabets and 0 to 9 any numbers and underscore. Variable names are case sensitive, like a small letter H and a capital letter H, or if you are using a capital letter A with small letter G and E, it's all three different variables. So never think these all are same because it's case sensitive. So now let's open our IDLE and start coding what we have already discussed, and we have already understood the theory part. Now let's find how it is defined in coding. So here for food we are taking 4200 per month, and for education it is 20,000, and for health 3500. And here the food is a container which hold the value of 4200. In the same way, education and health which act as a variable. Here when we are printing food, the variable food, we are getting the value inside that is 4200. So when we are printing education, we are getting 20,000. So right now if we wanted to calculate the total, we can just sum all this variable, because when we are adding this three variable, actually it is adding the value inside that variable and it gives our answer. So from this we have a clear idea about what is variable. So a variable which only hold the value, and whenever we are giving new values to that variable, it will hold that value. So it just hold that value at that point of time, and when we are updating that, it is get updated. So it is just a storage for your values. That is what about variable. Like we will be seeing this variable in every word in Python because we are using this variable every word in Python. So here we have already discussed many things, like we have discussed syntax, we have discussed indentation, and now we have discussed variables. These are very much important in Python. I hope you understood. So I wrap it up here, and there are a lot of hard work behind this video. Please do subscribe, like and share.